Welcome everyone to this listening part 3, listening for information analysis. Now I'm just here in the listening part 3 section of the CELPIP Library. And before we get started, I want to remind you that this part of the listening is more focused on CLB 4 to 6. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you need to get CLB 4, 5, or 6, you need to focus more on this part because the dialogue is easier for you to understand and the questions won't be so complicated, okay? At the same time, if you need to get CLB 7 or higher, that means that you should get everything correct in this part, or almost everything, because this part will not be difficult for you at all, okay? So it means that you should concentrate on more difficult parts if you need a higher level, okay? Also, everyone, let's remember that we have this great tips and strategies video, okay? That video you can find in the listening part 3 playlist. And that video will give you some strategies that you can use to listen effectively and to answer the questions effectively. And I'm going to be using those strategies too, okay? So please have a look at that video if you're interested in that. All right, for today, we are going to do a listening sample from part 3 in our library's volume 2, Schools in the Past. Sounds very interesting. So let's get started. All right. So everyone, let's remember that we are going to do this analysis together. And that means that I'm going to give you a chance to listen to the audio and answer all the questions for yourself. And then afterwards, we will do them together and we will analyze the answers, okay? And before we get started, I just want to remind you that we should be using 2 tips that I think work very well for lower levels. The first one is try to listen to full sentences, not just words, okay? Because full sentences will give us a better understanding of the ideas and the context. If we only listen for words, we're going to get very confused, especially in the answers. Everything will sound correct, okay? So we need to do that. Listen to full sentences. And secondly, let's try to repeat as much information as we can. Lower levels, we have a problem with repeating information or keeping information. But we also have a problem with writing notes. Lower levels, we have this problem because sometimes we can't write in English or we're trying to translate too much. So for that, what I strongly recommend is repeating as much information as you can in your mind. And full sentences, not only words. And try not to focus on words like I mentioned. Okay? Try to focus on full sentences. Of course, if you can write notes, that's great. Higher levels can write notes very easily. But lower levels, we have difficulty with this, so it's better to just repeat and repeat in your mind. Okay? All right, so let's get started with the listening. All right, everyone? Here we go.
Listening for information. You will hear a conversation followed by 6 questions. Listen to each question. You will hear the question only once. Choose the best answer to each question.
Thank you so much for meeting with me. As you know, I'm researching the history of Canadian schools.
I'm glad to meet with you. I have been writing Canadian history books for over 20 years now.
Well, perhaps you can start by telling me what a typical Canadian classroom would have been like 100 years ago.
Well, most schools didn't have classrooms back then. Remember, in those days, most Canadians lived in small communities. The school would have been one big room, and all the children studied together with one teacher.
So there was one classroom.
It was called a schoolroom or schoolhouse.
It must have been very difficult to teach so many different ages at one time.
Well, in the schoolhouse, the students were divided by ability in math and reading. The teacher gave the students tasks to do that were appropriate to their level. The teacher wrote questions on a large blackboard, and the children wrote the answers on a tablet called a slate. Alternatively, the children would have to study out of their school books.
So the children just had to sit and memorize information and sums without much help at all?
Well, not really. Students also played an important role in helping each other. The teacher would often ask the older or faster students to help the others. Also, the children did not have to memorize facts as much as you may think. For the most part, the teacher wanted them to learn rules.
What kind of rules did they have to learn?
In those days, teachers believed that there were rules for everything. Of course, there were math rules and also writing rules, such as grammar. There were also rules for being polite and well behaved, and rules for geography and history.
So the children all sat in one big room learning rules and practicing tasks from their school books or copied from the blackboard? How did the teacher know if they were learning anything?
Once or twice a day, the teacher called the students up in small groups for recitation. I should explain recitation. Recitation is when the students explain to the teacher what they have learned without using their books. They have to do it from their memory.
Okay, then, everyone. Let's now go to the questions. And we have about 20 seconds between questions. There are 6 questions, okay? And in our example, we will play all the questions one by one, okay? And so you just press play and the questions will start and I will show the answers so you can read the answers and just keep there which answers you think it is. Write it down and then we will review after, okay? Here we go.
Question 1.
Who is the woman?
Question 2.
How were children taught in schoolrooms 100 years ago?
Question 3.
What did the students do for much of the school day?
Question 4.
What did teachers think was important for children to learn?
Question 5.
How did the children get help?
Question 6.
What is recitation?
So then, everyone, now let's check and see how we did. So let's look at the script and let's go down to question number 1 here. Who is the woman? Okay. An education expert, a history teacher, a history author, a history researcher. Very interesting, very close. All right, so let's just see here our script. So the man, thank you so much for meeting with me. As you know, I'm researching the history of Canadian schools. So the man says that. And the woman says, I'm glad to meet with you. I've been writing Canadian history books for over 20 years. So she's been writing. Okay. So then we can see from that that she would be an author because she's a writer. Okay. Not teacher, researcher. Okay. And the man is researching. Sorry, I wanted to mention that. What about number 2? How were children taught in schoolrooms 100 years ago? So, how were they taught in those schoolrooms? In non-level based classrooms, in level based classrooms, in mixed groups of according to age, in groups of girls and boys. So let's see here. Well, most schools didn't have classrooms back then. Remember, in those days, most Canadians lived in small communities. The school would have been one big room, and all the children studied together with one teacher. So there was one classroom. It was called a schoolroom or schoolhouse. It must have been very difficult to teach so many different ages at one time. Well, in the schoolhouse, the students were divided by ability in math and reading. Okay, so some kind of levels. The teachers gave students tasks to do that were appropriate to their level. The teacher wrote questions on a large blackboard, and the children wrote the answers on a tablet called a slate. Alternatively, the children would have to study out of their school books. Okay, all right. So then, from that information, in non-level based classrooms, okay, in level-based rooms, in mixed groups of, well, it's not in groups of girls and boys, okay, because it didn't say about girls and boys, but it did say in, and also not mixed groups according to age, and also it did say that they were all together in one room. So non-level based classrooms. Now, not level based because that would mean that each room had a different level. But in here, we only had one room, non-level based. So A is the answer. Okay? And what about number 3? What did the students do for much of the school day? Helping each other, completing level-based tasks, mostly math and writing, repeating the teacher's rules. Okay, so I think we read that one already. It says here, ability in math and reading. Students, so it says right here again, the teacher gave the students tasks to do that were appropriate to their level. Okay, so according to their level. Helping each other, didn't say that yet. Completing level-based tasks are like work. Okay, it's work you have to do. Okay. And it said here, not repeating the teacher's rules, not helping each other. And it was mostly math, well, divided in ability in math and reading. So looks like the answer here is B. Completing level-based tasks or work according to their level. Okay? Now, they did learn mostly math and writing, but it was mostly according to their level. What about number 4? What did teachers think was appropriate for children to learn? Math rules, grammar rules, rules for recitation, essential subject rules. So the children just had to sit and memorize information and sums without much help at all? Well, not really. Students also played an important role in helping each other. The teacher would often ask the older and faster students to help the others. Also, the children did not have to memorize facts as much as you may think. For the most part, the teacher wanted them to learn rules. What kind of rules did they have to learn? In those days, teachers believed there were rules for everything. Of course, there were math rules, writing rules such as grammar. There were also rules for being polite and well-behaved, and rules for geography and history. So it seems like they're learning rules about many things, okay? So not only math or grammar, and not for recitation. So it looks like D, subjects, different studies, different parts like math, politeness, okay? So different subjects or courses. So D, essential means important also. What about number 5? How did the children get help? I think we read that one. Younger students helped smarter students. Older students helped younger ones. Smarter students helped others. Children of the same age helped each other. Well, not the same age, right? And also not younger students helped smarter ones. So older students helped younger ones. So it said over here, older or faster students to help the others. So then, it didn't really say just younger ones, okay? So it says that the older or faster students helped others. So this means that maybe a smarter student helped someone that was their same age. So the answer should be C, because it's true that the older students helped the younger ones, but they also helped students that were slower. Okay, so it should be C. Smarter students helped others. Okay, and number 6, what is recitation? Once or twice a day, the teacher called students up in small groups for recitation. I should explain recitation. Recitation is when the students explain to the teacher what they have learned without using their books. They have to do it from their memory. Okay. Students memorizing rules. Students repeating to each other what they learned. Students repeating to the teacher what they learned. The teacher repeating to the students rules. So it looks like it's not D, not the teacher repeating, also not just memorizing, and not repeating to each other, not to each other. It should be students repeating to the teacher, not each other. That's the difference between B and C. And also again with A, not just memorizing. So C. So, how did you do, everyone? Did you get all 6 from 6? I hope so. But if you didn't get 6 from 6, don't worry. We need to practice, okay? One good way to practice is to review the answers, everyone. Let's review why the answers are the answers and why the answers are not the answers, just like we did in our analysis. This is very important, okay? Also, let's review the script, okay? Reading and understanding the script will help us get familiar with this dialogue. This is very important, okay? And also will help us out with vocabulary. But more important is getting familiar with the dialogue, questions, answers, and flow. This is very important, everyone, and it will help you a lot. For that, I am going to be leaving a link in the description box. And that link will be the listening example we had today all over again. Okay? So you need to listen to it. Then you need to do the questions. Okay? Questions and different answers. Okay? And you can choose the answers and then check your score. And then afterwards, check the script. Okay? It'll be very great practice for you. Also, everyone, let's not forget about the CELPIP Library. The CELPIP Library has over 50 examples of listening part 3, current, present, and past CELPIP material, okay? And for that, at the bottom of the link, there will be a link to purchase a library pass. And look at this. With discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription for only $10.99. That's a great offer, everyone, and I strongly recommend it. Let's remember, everyone, practice makes perfect.